silence, please. I'm glad everyone's so excited about being here. We have a lot of special recognitions today, which is such a positive for all of us in the district. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. And the next item on our agenda is we need to approve the meeting agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the meeting agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Seeing there are none, motion carries. Okay, item number 3 is presentations. And then the first thing we usually do is have board member comments. Clint?
Congratulations to all those that are retiring and also to the baseball team for your success this year. Praises to you.
The only comment I have is much on those lines also. Also, 2 of our board members could not be here tonight. They both had family situations that have come up, and so, but they wanted me to extend to all of you retirees, sports fans, sports players, baseball, all of it, that they wish they could be here, but they definitely are in support of all of you all. And hopefully we'll get in touch with you and tell you congratulations. So, all right. So next we're going to have on 3B, which will be superintendent comments.
I'll be quick tonight for a change. So my calendar and the effectiveness standards for superintendents is attached to the meeting for your review. I also want to say personal congratulations to our baseball team and all of our retired teachers, and we'll have some more conversation in a few minutes about that, but congratulations and a great job to the baseball team, and I hope everybody gets a lot of rest and relaxation. Our retirees over the next few months. I have one other quick thing, and that is I want to congratulate Suzanne Farmer. She was appointed to the Commissioner's Principal Advisory Council, and that's a big honor. Only 15 principals across the state serve on this council at any one given time. They meet quarterly. They provide feedback to the Kentucky Department of Education, and it is a 3-year term. So congratulations, Suzanne.
That's excellent. Good news. Okay, up next, if Mrs. Fisher will come to the microphone, along with whatever coach she's going to have here with us.
So I'll start by saying, I don't know, is that on? Yeah, it's on. We have a few boys and Coach Morris as well, who's about 10 minutes away from us, trying to get here. They've been at a showcase today in Western Kentucky and thought they would be back by this time. So, but I'll go ahead and start with recognition and hope Coach Morris can join us here pretty soon. Coach Arnold and Coach Lazier, Coach Elmore, anybody back there that wants to add anything that I have, that would be great too. Guys, I'll just call you by roster and alphabet order. If you'll come up here and stand with me, we'll start with that, okay? Preston Barnes, and I haven't checked off, guys, to see who's here. Preston, I don't see him. He's with Coach Morris, okay? Brady Baxter, Jarius Bryant, C.J. Bird, Jackson Klontz, Zane Ford, Sam Gibson, Albert Honecker, Christian Howell, John Kelso, Riley Lark, Jaden Larmore, Sam Matherly, Brady Morris, and I know Brady's with Coach Morris, Jacob Sebastian, Blake Shelton, Braden Shelton, Jack Simpson, Logan Smothers, KJ Stanfield, Bryson Young, Ethan Wood. Okay, coaches, you don't get to stand in the back of the room either. That's what you all were wanting to do. Coach Andrew Lazier, Coach Duran Elmore, Coach Barry Arnold. Am I missing any coaches over there?
Riley Locker showed up.
Riley, I did call your name, so that's good. Be up here. And also, CJ Lynn is a coach with the baseball team, Terry Pittman, Doug Simpson. So I want to recognize those guys too. So I'm kind of out here, back here behind you, but I'll say that these guys should be out front. What a great year, what a great season for our baseball team. They've made not only school history, but state history too. They finished the season with a 40-4 record, as 45th district champs, as 12th region champs. They've had the most wins in school history. As a matter of fact, Coach Morris and I figured up yesterday that this group of seniors is a part of 103 wins in their career. And let's not forget we have They are one of only 5 teams in state baseball history to win 40 games in a season. And let's not forget that their coach, too, this year got his 500th win in his career here at Danville High School. Any of you guys like to say anything? No? And thank you, board, for bringing these guys in for a well-deserved recognition.
Very good.
Coach Morris gets here, we'll put him on the spot and let him come up and add anything he wants to add, if that's okay.
Thank you, fellas. You all represented our school district well. What an unforgettable season. So next we're going to have our Bell Awards given to our retirees that are here, and this will be for last year and this year. So we're so happy that everybody is here for this.
We're going to have the principals and some of the directors present the bells, and so we are going to start with Suzanne Farmer.
Can everybody hear us okay?
All right, the first bell that we are going to be giving from Hogsett is actually for Vivian Troxler, who I know is here this evening. And Vivian actually worked decades of her career, most of her career, with the alternative school. And one of those things that happened with COVID, which was, I guess, good for Hogsett and bad for everyone else, was that Vivian came to work with us for a while during the pandemic to end her career with us before she retired mid-year. So I wanted to share some strong words about Vivian from actually Joey Kirk, who had the pleasure of working with Vivian for so long. Joey said, Vivian is a beautiful blend of old school values with approachability and warmth. She quietly built relationships with students and maintained an atmosphere where learning could take place. She did it for kids and not for show. Another strong Danville employee that we got at the end of her career, Mary Vonderbrink. Mary Vonderbrink spent, I don't know how many people in this room have called Mary Vonderbrink early in the morning when we have sub-callers, right? So we would call Mary Vonderbrink and let her know that we were going to be out of school, and she would find a sub, and then she'd have to call those people early in the morning. And I never, on those mornings, calling Mary Vonderbrink, it didn't matter. Like, she was always pleasant, she was always efficient, she managed to get. And now that we don't have a sub-caller and we use a computerized system, I really appreciate how hard that job was for a human to handle. So Mary always kept our schools housed. And then when we went to an automated caller, we were lucky to have Mary work with our littlest kids in our Danville preschool. So I'd never known what math skills skills that Mary would have with working with young children, because I'd only known her as the sub-caller, and we were really fortunate to have her with us at the end of her career. So some of her colleagues in preschool said she was very reliable and willing to help out in any ways. She always treated others with respect and was eager to learn new skills needed for the role of a preschool assistant. She's a great team member. She came to work every day in a good mood. She has a good working relationship with all of her colleagues. She adjusted well to working with our youngest students and seemed to really enjoy it. And I can tell you that she's magical with young kids. So thank you, Mary, for spending some time with us at Halsey. And I don't see Kathy Matthews unless she snuck in. Is Kathy here? Kathy worked for decades in the Danville preschool and retired last year. And some of the words from her colleagues too, she was dedicated to the Danville School District and the children she taught. She drove over 2 hours each day and rarely ever missed a day. She knew the importance of being consistent and showed up for the children in her class. The preschool program saw many different types of changes, curriculum, assessments, and administration, and she adapted and always gave it her all. I don't know that I've ever worked with anyone more dedicated to her students than Kathy Matthews. She never slacked in her responsibility to provide the best educational experiences for her students up to and until the last day of school. She planned ahead, worked ahead, and always was prepared. Her classroom was orderly and managed well, yet she knew how to provide creative and fun learning activities for her students. Her colleagues respected her, loved her, and appreciated her leadership in our preschool program. And I can tell you that Kathy was respected across the state for her preschool classrooms. When the state would come and evaluate our classrooms, Kathy had one of the highest rated preschools in the state. So she's missed, and I'll make sure she gets her help. Thank you.
I first would like to recognize Ms. Pam Brown. Pam started with the Danville Schools in 1990. At that time, she was a lunchroom monitor and then also was an office assistant covering the phones while her secretaries ate lunch. She also was a Title I assistant. She also was a special ed assistant and also a bus monitor. So she's had lots and lots of jobs in our schools in the different locations. So I know that there were many children who benefited from being in our small group and having contact guidance from Ms. Brown. So Ms. Brown, would you like to come forward? Anna Simpson is another one of our retirees. Didn't see her. Anna left the Danville Schools as Director of Families First. She also held a number of different positions in the board office and in some other classified roles. I definitely think she was a perfect example of how you strengthen families. Anna her program was known throughout the state and considered an exemplary program. She was constantly searching for grants to support another program or give additional support to an existing program. She was absolutely wonderful to have in your building. There was never a need that was left undone or left unmet because Anna saw to it to make sure that need was met. And I know so many kids and families in our community have benefited from the assistance that they received from Anna Houston and her department. So congratulations to Anna. Miss Carolyn Grubbs, another retiree. Carolyn started with the Danville Schools in 1996. She's also done a number of classified jobs in different roles. I came alongside Carolyn in 2010 at Bates Middle School when she was the attendance clerk. And along with all the clerical duties that an attendance clerk should have, one thing I don't think is ever taught or trained is when things get a little rowdy and need to be kept confidential in the principal's office, she just turned on some music and rocked it out, and nobody knew the difference. So I appreciate Carolyn for always covering for me in so many of those places. when I needed it, and she certainly was very beneficial to me in that role. I moved to Jenny Rogers, and I took Carolyn along with me to be my bookkeeper. We worked 4 years together there, and then 3 years at Colliver most recently. I had no idea that Carolyn was ready to retire. I thought we were going out together, but bam, she just up and left me. So I was very surprised. Didn't see that one coming. She definitely kept us in compliance with all the Red Book standards. And you know, when you're the bookkeeper and you're in charge of all the pots of money, you definitely want somebody that can take care of those things. And she certainly did not get us in any trouble. Carolyn loved the Kentucky Wildcats. There's no doubt that she would make sure that John Calipari could either make her really happy or really angry, so don't mess with her Wildcats. She was very quick to jump in and give assistance wherever it was needed, whether it was, Carolyn, I need the tablecloth to set up for awards day, and she would try to get it, or Carolyn, I need help scooping 600 scoops of ice cream, and she would jump right in to help. So I certainly appreciate all of her assistance in so many ways in keeping me out of trouble and keeping all those salespeople out of my voicemail too. I appreciate that. So, thank you so much, Ms. Carolyn Gross. And also from Tulliver, we have Miss Elaine Lanham. Elaine also worked in a number of different capacities. I think when you see people go throughout their career, they often do change positions and titles. Elaine started as a secretary at Jenny Rogers and was a classified staff. She went back to school and was an art teacher after that. Elaine definitely provided many opportunities for our students in arts education. One of my favorite things that Elaine did, and she did this across schools because she was an itinerant teacher at Tulliver as well. She had students draw self-portraits from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. And to see, we often see kids develop, you know, across a year or across a grade, but to see them develop across 6 years, I know these portraits are framed and hanging in many families in the Danville community from their children's early days. So appreciate all her hard work and dedication to the Danville schools as well. Ms. Elaine Lanham.
All right, so we only have one Bate Middle School retiree, and he retired last year. It's Jeff Trueblood. Jeff is, he basically epitomized Bate Middle School for the time that he was there, for 25 years at Bate Middle School, I believe. So 25 years at Bate Middle School, he was the person that took care of student discipline at Bate. And for those of you who have had middle schoolers or been through middle school yourself, you know that middle schoolers sometimes have a difficult time with their behavior. And Jeff was the person that helped get them through it. He was the guy that he'll suspend you, but you'll leave his office smiling. He was somebody that built the best relationships with kids that I've ever seen. He taught me more than I could ever express to you about how to do student discipline and run a school education program. He's somebody that meant a lot to Bate, meant a lot to our students, meant a lot to our staff, and somebody that I knew at the end of his career, the last 2 years of his career, and somebody that he taught me a whole lot. He says that he broke me in as the school principal, and I'll give him credit for that. Definitely taught me more than I could ever explain. He's somebody I trust and somebody I still talk to on a regular basis whenever I'm in a tough spot. So, Jeff Trueblood, thank you for your time with Danville Schools.
Hello, everyone. I am Ernest Dunn, and I'm here representing Danville High School. We want to honor our retiree in attendance the day that I knew was coming, but I didn't want it to happen because she's just so great. This is Pat Calvert, who has been at Campbell High School for her entire career. She's 31 plus years, so she is an Admiral through and through. Anybody that is a child that's graduated from Campbell High School, and I see many former Admirals here in attendance that can raise their hand and say that they likely had Ms. Calvert in class, and she doesn't look any different than she did when she started many, many, many years ago. To have done it for 31 years and still approach it with the same energy she has is amazing. And she's the one that, when it's three-point contests and shooting contests at pep rallies, she's always got a spirit stick. You can see her in the stands at any of our sporting events or anything that she's going to be supporting her students. She gets me excited about biology. I know she got me excited about biology. Maybe she was the first person that actually made me go to Center College and study the New England Journal of Medicine for a research project that I had to do. And actually, I kind of enjoyed it. So she's just, you know, we're going to miss her dearly. I didn't think that she would really retire. Well, I knew she would, but I was just holding out hope that she wouldn't. And I wish her the best. And I think that she will enjoy her teaching. I think she went out with a bang with this COVID year. She can say she talked through a pandemic and many other things. You'll see her running around town. And Mr. Pat Calvert.
The first person I'm going to talk about today is, to me, the epitome of a loving grandmother. We kind of recruited Darlene. We saw her out working in the public, and it was always sweetie and honey. And I remember talking to Miss Gill, I said, gosh, Robin, I said, she was down at the log cabin store, and I would stop by there sometimes and get things when I was running around with the kids, either going from Jenny Rogers to Bay or wherever to pick them up. And I mean, you go in down there and it was like, honey, what do you need? I mean, she always made you feel so special. And we had some openings, and I said, that's the kind of person we need. We need people like that. So we kind of went out and just a little bit of recruitment with Darlene. And even though some people would have just, after that opportunity closed down there, would have maybe just went on and sailed off into retirement, but not Darlene Chambers. She's had a lot more to give, and we were on that end, the beneficial end of having the best of Darlene Chambers, and I'm so thankful that she was there. When the kids can look up at a kind face like hers and a smile on her face, it's comforting to them. She just gives something that a lot of people just don't have. She radiates it. So thank you, Darlene, for your years of service. I'm so glad that we were able to sway you over into our kitchens and making the Tyler a better place. Darlene Chambers. Okay, now our next person I'd like to recognize is Connie Dowdy. And I remember the first time I met Connie, it was during the summer feeding program, and it was the year that we worked, 2003, and we were working at Bate Middle School, the only year that we ever did summer feeding at Bate Middle School. And it's a wonderful thing because you can't see, there's no windows in there in the kitchen. And we're having to make decisions on what to do. You know, if it's raining or whatever, you have to go all the way outside to look and kind of gauge your weather or whatever. So, but for that one year, I remember Connie came by, somebody had sent her over there. I don't know if she did the central office, but she had heard there might be an opening. And she had had experience in Madison County and Fayette County. So she pops in over at Bay, and I'm like, I felt like I've been swept up in a tornado or something. It's just like this high energy force field. And I thought, wow. And then I find out, look, she's had all this experience, and she said, yes, I'm ready to work. I moved to, at that time she lived in Harrodsburg, and I'm really looking for something back in food service. And lucky for us, back in 2003, we had an opening, and Connie came to join us, and she has been a force to be reckoned with. She's a saint. I think she's like a hurricane, not a tornado, because she keeps building up force. Okay, I think she might be up in like category 4 or 5 now. She was just telling me about her rafting trip, and she hangs off mountains and hikes everywhere and does everything. So I know she's already starting the next chapter of her life, and I'm so thankful that we had all that energy that we can draw off of since 2003. Connie Dowd. And Deb Wolf is also leaving. She, actually, she's already living her next life. They've already bought a retirement, another home somewhere down in the South Carolina. South Carolina, yeah. So, and then she's selling her place here, so she's busy taking care of all that stuff, and I'll make sure that she gets her mail. But she also was a very important, vital part of our school system, and she'll be missed. Deb Wolf, thank you.
I'm here to recognize Beverly Wolf. She's not here, I don't think, but Beverly served as our health service coordinator and district nurse, and she was a school nurse at heart. And when you think of the qualities of a school nurse, caring, kindness, patience, calm, organized, knowledgeable, she was just the epitome of all those things. She loved the damn kids. She graduated from here. She was another example person through and through. So we'll make sure she gets her bell. She was really, really a special person, did a great job in that role.
I'm back again. So I took over as Director of Transportation Facilities, and you can see I've got a lot of people that leave. I'll be back again later. But we're going to talk about two of our maintenance people who probably, if I'd known this, I would not have been so gung-ho about taking this position, because they're two of the mainstays, and two of the people that made it a little bit easier on me to move in this position. One of them is Mr. Danny Gadberry, who is, his name, he speaks for itself. He's our first guru, our field doctor, our grass whisperer. All of those. He makes people think that we're playing on artificial surfaces, because he keeps our fields and our grounds looking so good and so soft and perfect. He's just got a way about him. He started off as a volunteer, just painting fields, and it kind of morphed into a job and a career and a passion for him, because he is really good at it. I think this is my 15th or 16th year in the district, and I think this is maybe the 8th time overall that I've ever seen Mr. Gadberry without a hat on. I always have to look twice, but when you see him, if I was kind of full head of hair, I'd never have a hat. That's kind of embarrassing. You walk around to keep the head from up, you got all my hair. But he's going to be sorely missed. He's always wanted to give it a helping hand. He was on a mainstay on Friday nights. He's there to set the game up and there to tear it down at the softball field. I spent a lot of time with him as an assistant coach on the softball field, getting the fields ready. There's times that we were the only game in the state that was able to play because Mr. Gabriel knew how to get a field ready, get us playing. You know, so we sadly missed, and hopefully he doesn't stay home for too long. He'll stop by and check on us every so often. Our other one is my man Kenny G, Mr. Kenny Grubbs, who's probably one of the most calm people you'll ever meet. I've never met him in a bad mood. I've never seen him frustrated. And I got to know, well, I'd say frustrated. I got to know him when I was working at Hoxton, and Carolyn was the secretary bookkeeper there, so I didn't get to. But I really got to work more closely with him over this last few months. I leaned on him a lot. He's very knowledgeable about everything that's happening down the schools over the last, how many years? 18 years. He came up to us from Whirlpool. He worked at Whirlpool, and they shut down. We were fortunate enough to have him. He saved my life this year when we started back in person. We had a driver that decided to leave us the day that we started back, and he was sitting in the maintenance garage in the maintenance shop, and I walked in there and said, "Get a big time favor." So me and him hopped on the bus 211, and we took off in the dark. Driving around town picking kids up. I think we had everybody who was out there. A couple that weren't. We took one to go to the city, one to, and we took another one over to ASD. We got everybody that got on the bus to Hay School. So, wasn't necessarily right, but we got them there. Actually, I called him today, asked him about water fountains. He pointed me in the right direction, and now I'm an expert in bottle filling water fountains that are filtered and not filtered. So, really gonna miss him. Is CDL, this is the last thing I'm gonna say about him. The CDL is physical. But bus drivers have to have a physical every year. And his physical expired on May 22nd. Fortunately, our last day of school was May 20th. So that was a good way to go out. He still get a physical and come back and get forward. Because, you know, Carolyn's she's going to keep you busy. I think you'll get a break and come back and work. You know, these two guys are irreplaceable. And they are true admirals. They've been here. And just great men, great people, so dependable. Ask them anything, they're always willing to help no matter what's going on. And I've got a lot, I learned a lot from them in a short period of time. So we've got Mr. Danny Gadberry. They are a package deal. I think they should come up here together. Danny Gadberry and Mr. Kenny Brooks. Back again. And once again, as I was talked into offered this position as transportation director, facilities director, little did I know that I'll find some more people leaving. And this first person, I can't talk about her on a professional level, but I can't talk about it on a personal level. And it's my aunt, who's still stunning, aka Queenie. So, Dale, I get a little emotional when I talk about it. It's like my mother. I know that Phyllis just loved the children. Ronnie was started as a monitor on one of the special ed buses, but she ended up monitoring for Mr. Ronnie Stamps a lot, and they were classmates, so he always thought real highly of Phyllis and talked about it all the time. And as well as the other members of the transportation department. They always talk about business. I can tell you, she's thorough, she loves it, and when you go over to Phyllis's house, she cleaned constantly, and she was a cleaner and a note leader. So that's how she, like, kind of passive aggressive. So if you got a drink and you put your name on it, and if you left it unattended for more than just a few minutes, that drink would gone, because she was going to clean. So our house was always spotless, immaculate, and she would just leave these notes all over the house, on the refrigerator, on the windows, just everywhere. So she's just an amazing person. I've been blessed with calling my hands. So just Phyllis done it. We got another retiree, Miss Sadie Gambrell. She worked for many, many years in alternative school, but she also was a bus driver and a track coach and many things for us over the years. She was always dependent when she drove our preschool buses. I know it's towards the end of her career, so I never got to work with her directly, but I've known her my entire life, so she's another one that loved the kids. She called everybody her babies. She loved the babies. So I'm going to miss her. I think she's down in Georgia right now, so in the state of Gamble. Our next retiree is Miss Joyce King. And Miss Joyce kind of shocked me. When she came in to retire, and I completely understand. I'm going to greatly miss her. I know she came to the district as working in the cafeteria for many, many years. She's married to, she's better half, brains of the operation to Lowell King, another long-time Tampa employee, like a two-time retiree. He's still kicking. I think he's still physically with him. I think he's got to do it. Keep up with Joyce. But Joyce, she's so dependable. She's calm natured. She loves the kids. Everything about the job. I think I almost felt like her and Liz were like a dynamic duo. It's like, 18 years? 20 years, that's long. She stayed one more, she's been legal age, been monitored. She's retiring to take care of family, spend more time keeping Lowell in check, so that might be a full-time job for her. But we're going to greatly miss her as well. Miss Joyce King. And last but not least, we've got one more. I don't know if I can call him retired, because he saved me. Once again, somebody bailed me out. Mr. Bill Sivers, who came to us. He started in the retired Air Force.
Yes, sir.
Retired Air Force, worked with the big time nuclear stuff. So it's all this. It's got to make you nervous. The amount of information that he had, things that he's had to do in his life. But he came to us after he retired from the Air Force. Drove one of our special needs buses for 6.
I think it's about 8. I'm not positive. I think it's about 8.
8 years. And Mr. Bill decided to retire while we were out for COVID. But after his 90 days, we were about to start back, and I found out we were going to have to transport some students for KSD, and we had enough to cover our special needs routes, but I was worried about having enough to cover KSD because they have different start and end time. And out of the blue, I got word Bill wanted to come back and drive. It was right, I think it was like 91 days or so that when he came back, he's been a godsend to us. He loves the kids. Very thorough, very knowledgeable. You know, he's always willing to lend a hand. He comes in on days where he doesn't really have to. And I know he was a really good mentor to one of our future drivers that came on and was a model performer. I know he speaks really highly of him. We're going to give Mr. Cypress this bell, but we're going to see him again in August.
Thank you, sir.
I have the distinct privilege of recognizing two ladies tonight, Crystal Belcher and Susan Goggin. If I look a little off kilter up here, it's because I've now lost my left and right arm. So losing both of these ladies, I've definitely felt it. I'm going to start with Susan. Susan's a champion for all children. Those of you who know her know that her heart is with kids. As a Girl Scout leader, a grandmother, mother, working in the school system, she's a champion for all kids. She served in a role as school psychologist, evaluating students at all levels. She's worked in all of our schools, and she served as the school psychologist for Sunrise the whole time you've been here. Which those kids light up when they see her. She walks in the room and they all go, me, are you here for me? They all want to go with her. They love her to pieces. She's just amazing. Her keen sense of humor and wit assisted her in developing meaningful relationships with students, staff, and families. Her personality and comical voices brighten our office, hallways, and classrooms. And I think those of you all that know Susan and know her well know that's one of her best qualities. On your best day, she can make you smile. She can make you laugh. Try not to cry. I'm so honored that all these years together, I not only call you coworker, but just a dear friend. She eagerly served on numerous committees tasked with improving instructional practices, student safety, and developing interventions for behavioral and mental health. She wielded her strong command of language and communication skills to explain what all too often are tough results to parents and guardians with sensitivity and simplicity, and that is not an easy job. Susan, I can't thank you enough. I don't know how many times as your director and other teachers in meetings, and I know parents, your heart and the way that you deliver sometimes such difficult news is just well appreciated. She's given 25 years to her profession, and we're so appreciative of the investment that you've made in staff, students, and families. I was fine until Ernest started crying.
That's not me.
I know, it's so good. Crystal Belcher. Crystal is one of the hardest working people I know. She can work circles around anybody. And Crystal, I didn't realize how true that was until this year. I can't tell you how many times somebody would say, this needs to be done. I'd be like, oh, Crystal, back 100,000 times that you know. So for all the things that you did, and you can always tell me that you did it, so that I didn't have to worry about it. She was always the first person in the building, very early in the morning, which comes with some very entertaining stories in itself, and always the last one to leave with a bag on her shoulder. She's the only person in the world I know that makes child countless fun. She never hesitated to jump in and help when needed. In addition to all of her regular duties, she voluntarily kept up with all the due process files in our records room, a job in itself. How many paper cuts she endured, file folder cuts. She also voluntarily provided homeschool services for numerous students. Sometimes we have difficult kids that have to be on homebound, and I I couldn't find anybody to do it. She always volunteered. She was very good at it. I don't think I've met anyone who loved their job. She poured her heart and soul into her work. And one of the things that we all appreciated and missed is the way that you cared for all of us. You always made the most special crafted treasures for everyone. This is one that I got on the first day of school this year, and it's full of Tootsie Roll Pops. And it's right. Thank you for that. On special occasions, you could make it for people. Anytime any of us were down, found your way to lift us up. You always brighten our day. You love to be told that I can't feel, but we thank you for your investment in this.
Thank you.
This evening, I have the pleasure of talking about Miss Christy Denny. So when I arrived in Danville, we had several large facilities projects going on, and that's probably an understatement. We were finishing up renovating Holland, starting the major renovation closet. We were looking towards a new softball field. We're doing major roofing renovations here at the high school, major HVAC renovations at Bait, and looking at the new central office. That's 6. Most school districts start with, or do one at a time, major facilities project. And so just walking in, it was so overwhelming, but Christy made it so smooth. She made it seem like we didn't have multiple large projects going on. And I will say that when I arrived in the morning, she was already here. When everyone left in the evening, she was here. 5:30, 6 o'clock, Christy was here. She was already hitting the ground running. And the energy level to have taken on 6 major large projects at a time, not to mention just the day-to-day running of the facilities and operations in the district. It was always with tons of energy. She was smiling, she was laughing, always happy. And it's amazing to have that much energy and still keep that many large projects moving forward and handling the large volume of stuff that she had to handle. And I'll also say that Christy's an English teacher. I'm sure most of you know that. I was a math teacher. And so we did really well with balancing each other out. So sometimes I would have a large document and I would run upstairs to Christy's office and I'm like, okay, I need you to proof this. So having to do with facilities, I need you to proof this document. And it didn't matter, what it was. She was going to stop what she was doing and help. And she did that with everybody. She would stop and gave that helping hand to everybody in the district. So I want to say thank you for your service to education and thank you for your service to Danville. We really appreciate it. So Christy Denny. So the next person I want to recognize is Ed McKinney. And it's going to be a hard loss for our district to lose Ed. Ed really gets the big picture. And a lot of us go through life with kind of our tunnel vision and really just think about what's going on here. And I'll admit, as a teacher in my classroom, I had tunnel vision. I was focused on my classroom and what was going on there. And when you're working in the central office, you have to really think big picture and community. You have to think about each school, each classroom, and so many things. And Ed is one of the most brilliant people that I've ever met that can think big picture. He can really think across multiple avenues and multiple projects, multiple work that's going on. And so it didn't matter what was going on in the district, even if it wasn't necessarily under facilities or transportation or that sort of thing. Ed was very good to say, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you talked to this person?
I'm really having somebody that can think through that big picture and give those suggestions of where to go or who to talk to is very valuable. And that's really been a benefit to our district. The other thing that I would say is that there was a lot of 4 and 4:30 mornings riding the roads and thankful for snow. So that's been an interesting experience, watching the weather and getting, and it never failed, even if I was not awake yet, my phone was dinging, and Ed was there, and he was ready to go. He's like, I'm already in the car, I'm already on this street, and check that street. And so that was an interesting experience, but I didn't have to worry about it because Ed was on top of it. He was on top of the weather, our roads, and safety for our kids, and no telling how many mornings that he was at that bus garage, at 6 o'clock with the bus drivers and on those roads. And I will have to say, honored Ed, but that's another congratulations to Ernest. So when we had that snow this year, it was a late March. I was like, are you ready, Ernest? It may be the end of March, but it's 4:30. But Ed handed the reins over on our snow days, but it was a great work.
Can I add that he is one of the top-notch monitors? Like he's up there with Joyce and Phyllis.
I'm not there. I'm not that.
Well, maybe
I'm working to get
look a notch or 7 or 8 lower, but he's up there high. One of the best monitors in the business.
As soon as this 90 days is up, we're going to have him back on the bus as a monitor. He just doesn't realize it yet. We're going to get him out of the bus as a monitor as soon as those 90 days are up. So, Ed McKinney.
I just want to say before all of our retirees leave, one nice thing is you can. I think you all should congratulate one another and yourselves for all the years of service that you've given to the school district and have given to our kids. It's a phenomenal gift that you all have and have had. And we'll continue to do that no matter what. So thank you. Okay, to continue on with the meeting, item 3E, personnel notification. As the board had a chance to take a look at the report, if you have any questions or any comments, just get Okay, we'll move on. Item 3F. Several of the 2021 donations. Dr. Dunn, you want to comment on this?
Yes, these are just donations that are for our school activity funds. So we have other donations to the school every year, but they are on our monthly report because they come through the central office or through the schools. And these are donations that are directly to our school activity funds. And you can see each school listed. If the school is not listed, then they've not had a donation directly to that activity fund. And we report this out once a year.
Which is great. And we do thank those who have made donations to our district and hope they will continue to do that. It's important to have community buy-in. Not only do we believe in the Danville schools, but the willingness to give money to support our schools and our programs. So once again, thank you to all those who have given in the past. Okay, do we have anybody to speak? No. Okay, we We have no one speaking for preserving the public. The other item, next item, item 5 is minutes of the previous meeting. We need a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the 5/10/21 and 5/17/21 meeting minutes as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor, opposed? Seeing there are none, the motion carries. All right, item 6 is federal relief funding feedback, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. McDonald.
So our district has received several different funding sources for relief, of course, from coronavirus. Of course, it's been in the news, and a lot of us have heard about it. But I just wanted to do a quick summary on what we've received up to this point. And so, board members, you have a quick little chart in the e-meeting as well, so that you can have a hard copy if you need that. But the first 2 pots of money we had, one was called GEAR. That was $93,762. And then we had about the same time what was called ESSER 1 funding. And ESSER stands for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. That pot of money was $546,586. So the majority of those funds are already spoken for. We've either spent them or they're encumbered in some form or fashion. Those were the funds that we received at the end of the 2020 school year when COVID first hit over the summer. So a lot of that went to PPE, masks, hand sanitizer, plexiglass, those sorts of things. The third row down that you see is ESSER 2 funds. Again, same thing, elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds. And ESSER 2, we received a little over $2.7 million there. Most of that money is encumbered as well. We've hired some extra staff to help us close the learning gap that students have received through ESSER. These first 3 pots of money also we're spending on some technology pieces and so forth. So the last pot of money that we will receive to help us overcome all the challenges from COVID is called ARP ESSER 3, and that's the American Rescue Plan, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief. And that is just slightly over $6 million. That's $6,093,355. And so one of the things that we've been doing in-house with our staff is really having discussions about how we were going to, spend the money. Where is it needed the most for our students and our staff, and what does the next couple of years look like? So each of these pots of funding have a different end date that we have to spend them by, but this last ESSER 3 is 2024. And so we've had a lot of conversations with staff, mainly about extra staff to help catch up summer programs, after-school programs, and so forth. But one of the things we want to do is also get feedback outside of the school district from the community as well. So we wanted to, at a board meeting, ask if anyone had any thoughts or they had feedback about how they might want us to look at spending some of these federal funds. Before we open it up to the floor, however, I would like to see if Mrs. Satterley would like to give any additional information of maybe how we've been spending some of these first 3 pots of money.
The first 2 Dr. McDonald talked about, that was early COVID money. It was spent early on. The second round, the 2.7, I think it's 2,713,000 some change. You'll remember we did the unfinished learning grant with the schools. If they put so much more time of reading and math in their schedules, they got $150, $160 per kid to do with what they want. So they have budgeted that money, and we have included that in that budget. And most of that is surrounding literacy and math, most of it around literacy. I know at Bate, Dr. Murray actually funded an extra position with his, and so did Miss Kelly, but Miss Kelly had some more to spend on top of that extra position. Outside of that, we focused most of it on literacy and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math areas. And then with this next round, we plan on bringing in the STEAM part, the arts part. Miss Dewey and I have been talking about how to support the arts with this next pot of money that we're going to receive. So
Lots of interesting things, from supporting the esports team and their endeavors to supporting Greenhouse for environmental science. I mean, we got real creative with this last pot of this ESSER 2 money, so hopefully we'll see a lot of new things popping up here and there.
One other thing too, there's a note at the bottom, and so our district will be eligible for $124,894 additional dollars from the ESSER 2 funding, as long as we abide by the 85-15 rule, which means that 85% of the ESSER 2 funds are for direct services to students.
And when we budgeted that, it was actually more like 90-10. So we didn't even meet the 85% threshold in our budget. So that amount of money is already actually in GMAP for me to budget.
So we should be fine there as long as we finalize all that spending in that way, and we're good to go since we're well above the 85 threshold, and so that should be something that we'll be seeing soon as well. So, Mr. Baker, we would be glad to take questions, but also we'd love to open it up to the audience to see if anybody has ideas or suggestions.
I apologize, I was messing with my iPad, but I went offline. So anyways, if I'm not online, I can't follow any of this. I've had some questions concerning ESL and gifted and talented, also wanting to break the barriers as far as with our Hispanic population.
Do you care if I comment on that?
Well, can I finish?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to.
And I know we're doing positive things and will be, and I know there's hope from parents I've talked to that it won't just be a one-time shot, that if we have money until 2024, that we can expand those programs and serve these kids. So, go ahead.
A lot of the things we budgeted for, in general, we budgeted for at least 2 years, the things that we wanted to be able to sustain. We did purchase some online programs in there for our ESL students. I involved Ms. Fuquay in some of those discussions and making sure we started a new program with ESL last year called Passport, making sure we could sustain that using the ESSER funds. And with GT, I got with Ms. Brosey, and we actually purchased the full set of the junior grade books. I don't know, they're novel sets for higher readers. We purchased those for grades K through 5. So we did put some of our focus on those 2 areas when we budgeted.
And I'm very glad to hear that, because that's a growing part of our population. And so, you know, we want all kids to be successful, and just want to make sure that we're covering the bases there and to help eliminate some of the gaps. So thank you very much for that. That's all I have.
Anybody?
Does anybody else have comments?
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to have the information in advance, maybe we could try a community forum, unless, I don't know if this question was posed to the community of how to use these funds. So, I did not know about it, that's my fault. But I think community input would be great, and if it was made public, that conversation can happen over use of these funds.
Thank you, and we'll plan some things in the next month or two, so we're working on that. So we don't even, just as a final note, the last pot of funding that we're talking about, the ESSER 3 funding, we don't have all of the guidelines yet from the state, so it's not finalized as to how we can spend, and that was the larger pot that was a little over $6 million. So since the guidelines are not finalized yet, we still have a good bit of time on that last plot, which is what we're kind of just starting to get feedback from the current.
But, and I'm in agreement. I think a community forum would be time well spent, and so that.
Because your question from the community is ideas on how to spend these funds, is that correct?
That's part of it, and just also being informed on the district's approach and how we are going to spend the funds. Okay, so we'll make sure that information gets out as soon as possible. What's been interesting with all this funding is they're moving targets. So I mean, all of a sudden you have this money and then the rules change. So, and that's one thing that Dr. McDonald and staff are very aware of. And so sometimes it makes it hard to even know if the guidelines are still the same ones that we had the day before. So thank you for that. Anyone else? All right, let's now go to Teresa Osborne on district insurance.
You've got several attachments there. A lot of them are the proposals for this year. It's that time again to pay for our property insurance. If you look at the first attachment, it says 2021-22 insurance premiums. If you pull that up, you're going to see a comparison sheet. We've got the last 3 years on there, and then of course up at the top, we're comparing last year to this year. We've gone up just a little bit, and Scott from Johnson Hopkins here to address any questions you may have. But you'll see that it's broke down, of course, by our fleet, our general liability, student accident, workers' comp, all that's combined.
Scott, I've noticed that we did have an increase, and I'm actually surprised that it was as small as it is. Foreseeable future, do you think insurance rates are going to stabilize? Because I know over the 2021 to 2022, it was very insignificant as far as any kind of.
I would like to see that, Steve. It depends on the weather, number one, from the property standpoint, what the reinsurers do to the insurance companies. On the liability side, we're starting to see some fairly big lawsuits in sexual molestation and directors and officers liability. So that may be, those two lines may be increasing for the next couple of years. But I'm hoping that property is going to stabilize, and that'd be nice to do.
Any other board members have any comments on that? Okay. Okay, Teresa.
So I appreciate you going ahead and vote for these. So we need the premiums paid this month.
Okay. Everybody comfortable with that? Any motion, please?
Make a motion that we approve of the Liberty Mutual for property, fleet, general liability, and educators' legal liability, Kimmy for workers' compensation, and a live risk for students insurance totaling $315,700.
Second.
We have a motion and second for the approval of the district insurance program, Liberty Mutual. We have the educators' legal liability, Kimmy, and a live risk for student insurance totaling $315,700. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing there are none, the motion passes. Thank you all very much
Board, we
for being
appreciate
here.
it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to have an update on special education manual.
There's a couple of changes I'd like to make to our procedural manual. One being for under identification of students with specific learning disabilities. Our current manual says that we will only use the discrepancy model. And we have been working diligently the past several years on our RTI processes, and I'm very confident that we have it shored up enough to where that is a method that we can also use to identify students with specific learning disability. So that's a change, an addition I would like to our procedures manual. And the second thing is allowing teachers to only write annual goals and objectives for students not participating in alternate assessment. It's regulation that any student who participates in the alternate assessment must have benchmarks or short-term objectives with their goals, but I don't want to hog-tie the other teachers to where they have to do that as well. So I'd like to make that change in our procedural manual as well.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Ray? Obviously, you're on top of all this. We greatly appreciate that.
And then just for your information too, for the RTI piece of it, what we will do is an ARC, when they go into plan the evaluation, they will have to identify at that planning meeting which method they will be using, either RTI or discrepancy. So we can't go discrepancy and say they didn't meet it, we'll just use RTI. We have to make it clear going into that meeting. So it'll be very clear cut.
On that note, if RTI really isn't hitting it like it should be, is there still wiggle room? I mean, that you can move on to something else if necessary?
I think the difficult part would be if they don't meet the discrepancy, and they really haven't made that progress with RTI, well, then that shows they need more than what we're doing, which the next level would be special education.
Okay, thank you. All right, is this something that we need to vote on, or
Just an FYI, because it's just our
information?
procedural manual.
All right,
Yes.
thank you so much for that. All right, let's proceed on to item number 9, which is school fundraiser discussion. This has been an issue, I guess, when COVID started, that the board wanted to be able to stay on top of fundraisers. Of course, we didn't have a whole lot during that time. You know, my years on the board, this has always been an issue of some sort. It's either really great or something comes up so last minute and we've already had the board meeting. And I know we've talked about over the years trying to have more discretion on this. I think principals can handle this on their school level, which would be a whole lot easier. And then I guess what the board would just want is just a report, you know, on what the fundraisers are and just something more of information for us. Does that seem good to you all? There's always been the question that's come up recently, is like, since we have so much social media, is it really just a school level fundraiser, or does it now become a district and a community fundraiser? So, but I guess if it's created from Tolliver or from Mary G. Hogsett or whatever, that to me says it's a school fundraiser. And if it blossoms out because of social media, that's just all part of it. So.
Yeah, and I think if every student in the school is selling the product, we would consider it a school fundraiser. If only a small group is selling the product, for example, a soccer team or drama, you know, or a video group, or there's a specific group, then it would not be considered school-wide, and we would just have the principals approve it. And then, so our current policy 9.33 is worded that way during COVID, so that we didn't overtax parents, because our unemployment rate, of course, was so high when COVID first started. The board and the central office were sending all fundraisers to make sure that we didn't overtax anyone or no parents. But I think the principals would really love to go back to policy 9.33, where they can approve anything that's not school-wide, which means that it's only a small group of students selling, not the entire school selling. But we would be glad to bring a report back to the board on those to let you know what's going on at each school.
That works for me.
That works.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Just about FYI.
Yeah, because really the policy really never changed. It was just the request of the board to have the information and come before the board. So that really made it easy. So thank you all. So now, Dr. McDonald, you'll talk about the district facilities and public hearing report.
So we have been working on our district facility plan for some time now. Due to COVID and the difficulty of meeting in person over the last, a little over a year, and it being the time that we were redoing our facility plan, it just stretched out the process a little longer than normal. But we are in the final stages of the process of having the new district facility plan for Danville schools for 2021. And as you know, the board has already approved that facility. Of course, the facility plan was approved first by the local planning committee, and then the board approved that facility plan as well with a vote of 5-0. And the last step in that is to have a public hearing. We had that public hearing on June the 16th, and Boyd Randolph was our facilitator for the district. He opened up the meeting by explaining the process and then reviewing the facility plan that had already been voted on by the LPC and our local board here. He did not have anyone at that meeting to have public comment or to make any comments, but he still, of course, went through the facility plan. So we had our hearing. His report is attached to e-meeting for you to review. We will need, as a matter of process for KBE, the board to vote on the hearing report that Mr. Boyd has submitted, and to again vote on the finalized district facility plan. Just for your information, it has not changed since the last time you voted on it, but per KBE procedure, we have to vote on it one last time.
Chris, can I ask you, can we do all that in one recommendation?
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So we need a motion, please?
Make a motion that we approve of the district facilities plan hearing report and the final district facility plan for 2021.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion for the approval of the district facility planning hearing report and the final report for the facility plan, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Seeing there are none, motion carries. Thank you all. Okay, let's go to item 11. Please.
So this is Senate Bill 128. So as you know, our board voted to approve Senate Bill 128, and we have to submit a plan to KBE. We've already done kind of our check boxes with KBE, but we will keep this plan on file here at our central office and in each school. The plan is uploaded in e-meeting, and basically it's a redo year, and so our lower grades in K-8 pretty much are repeating the same courses that they had, and then at 9-12 it's individualized for each student. So the guidance counselors and the administration and teachers will work with each student that chose to sign up for Senate Bill 128 to do an individualized plan for that particular student or that schedule. Mrs. Satterley has really been involved in the planning process with our administrators and our instructional coaches. Would you like to add anything to that?
I think it's important to note that we did not have that many students sign up. And for 9 through 12, I think that's the sticky point. It's important to note that the law says what they take in this do-over year has to bear a reasonable connection to what they took the previous year. So does that mean the same thing, or does that not mean the same thing? You also have the caveat of the NCAA eligibility, where they are still only giving 4 years to establish eligibility regardless of this law that's gone into place, which is why we chose to go the individualized route for 9 through 12 students, because they still are going to be, if they were a Division I athlete, they still would be bound by those 16 credits and that GPA and that ACT score in 4 years, not 5. So they still have to be making progress, and that's still, but by the law, it still has to bear a reasonable connection to what they took last year. So that's why we went the sit-down, one-on-one, individualized route for high school students.
Do you have any questions of Dr. McDonald? Sherry, on this? Is this something we need to approve, or is this FYI?
So it pretty much is FYI, but let's go ahead and approve it, since some of the wording that has come from KBE in the law has stated that this is a board plan, not an administration plan, so I would feel more comfortable with you approving this document.
I'll make a motion that we approve Senate Bill 128 district plans and implementation for our district.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second for the approval of Senate Bill 128, district plan for implementation. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Seeing there are none, the motion carries. Thank you. Thank you all for all that. Okay. So now we have up next a trauma-informed plan.
So I'm going to start by giving credit to Ron Ballard, who has really been instrumental in developing this plan. Of course, with input, guidance counselors, our nurses, our administrators and principals. So there were a lot of individuals that have met multiple times and had input to really develop this plan. But what this gets back to is Senate Bill 1, our School Safety and Resiliency Act that was passed in the General Assembly in 2019, and everybody remembers that. We're still working on it. Well, a piece of Senate Bill 1, the School Safety Act, was for all school districts to develop this trauma-informed care plan. The actual wording in it is pursuant to KRS 158.4416. Each board must develop a plan for implementing a trauma-informed care approach in their schools by July 1, 2021. And so the amazing thing about our district is that when Senate Bill 1 was passed in 2019, we were already implementing almost every piece in that bill. Like, we were already doing those things. And so, as you know, our strategic plan for Danville schools, goals 4, 5, and 6, actually already have everything that, well, not everything, but the majority of information that you're going to see in this trauma-informed care plan. The language may be a little different, but it's the same information. So we may not be doing everything perfectly yet, but it is in our strategic plan, and we are moving towards that as a district. And so, as you will see in this plan, there are 5 focus areas. Those 5 focus areas are specifically laid out in that school safety act. So everything as far as the main focus area is laid out in the law. We were going with that, and when you see the action steps under it, they align with our strategic plan. So focus area 1, enhance trauma awareness throughout the school and the community. Focus area 2, assess school climate, including but not limited to inclusiveness and respect for diversity. Focus area 3, develop trauma-informed discipline policies. 4, collaborate with the Department of Kentucky State Police, the local sheriff, and the local chief of police to create procedures for notification of trauma-exposed students. 5 is provide services and programs to reduce negative impact of trauma, support critical learning, and foster a positive and safe school environment for every student. And so I won't read in all the details, but you will see when you go through it and review it a little more detail that it crosses over very closely with our strategic plans goal 4, 5, and 6. And since this is in law that we have this plan in place by July 1, I would like to ask for approval of it this evening.
Okay. Need a motion, please?
I make a motion of approval of trauma-informed plan as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the trauma-informed plan as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing there are none, the motion carries. Thank you all for all that. That's a lot of hard work putting it together. All right, number 13 is calendar update to PD days. Go ahead.
So this, of course, also is in Mr. Ballard. He is enjoying a vacation this week. And so I will try to talk through this. I may ask Mrs. Satterley to jump in. But as you know, and if you'll notice, both calendars are attached. The approved calendar, which the board approved on February 25th, and the new proposed change that we're discussing today. So one of the heavy pieces of discussion with the calendar committee and literally our staff and some parents and so forth was that is the 2 weeks of December, that there's not 2 full weeks there. You have that Monday and Tuesday. I will just say personally as an administrator, when you have 3 days off and you have a Monday and Tuesday before a major holiday, your attendance rate is usually low as well, which impacts us in many ways. So kind of anticipating low attendance, and we have had feedback from some families that were really wanting that 2-week stretch there. We looked at possibly asking the board to add those 2 days as the professional days for teachers, so students will have those 2 complete weeks. Now, in saying that and thinking about our staff, a lot of our staff will have completed their PD days by that point and would have those 2 days off too. But if a staff member had not completed their PD days, then they would, have some form of professional development that we would plan with them that Monday and Tuesday. So the change is just simply to move the 2 PD days at the end of the year to the 20th and 21st of December, which gives students 2 complete weeks that way. Possibly some staff will get 2 complete weeks, and it prevents us from rolling into June because our new last day of school would be the 31st of May. So kind of some multiple things that moving those 2 days would do. And all of this Ron let me know that a lot of what we just talked about was discussed at the calendar committee, and a lot of the folks on the calendar committee really did want to try to work out that 2 weeks at Christmas.
Anybody have any questions or concerns? I think it makes a lot of sense. So, can we have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve of the revised FY22 school calendar as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the revised FY22 school calendar. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And thanks, Mr. Ballard, for working on that. The next item on this is something that's through KSBA. They've done book studies in the past. This board's participated in one, I guess it's been a couple of years ago. There's a new book out that's being recommended. It's called How Not to Be a Bad School Board Member. I did get a preview of the book. It actually is, it really fits, and the authors know what we're going through and what we do as board members. So, oh, good, Teresa, I'm glad you got it. It's been highly recommended, like I said. And, we have some changes going on in our board. And I think that come August or so that we're going to have at least one new face. And I think it's important that we all get on the same page and have this discussion, and we'll be able to take advantage of KSBA as far as leading a lot of these things. The last book study was good, enjoyed it, learned a lot. So are you all good with us ordering the books? And
Yes.
okay. So Teresa, if you will order 6 books. Okay. And then any comments or? No? Okay. All right, we can move on. Okay, item 15, we do an annual board policy updates. It's extensive. I know for the board policy, this is a first reading. I hope you all had a chance to take a look at all this. KSBA is very thorough. As laws change, policies change, and they keep up with all of this, and we benefit from that. So do you all have any questions or concerns about any of the revisions? Okay, we don't need to vote on this. It's just that it'll be considered the first reading. We are planning on having a July the 6th meeting, and that's when we'll do the actual second reading, and then all the provisions in the policy update will be on board with our board. So, next we have item 16, which is an annual board procedure. Teresa, you want to talk about that one?
It kind of mirrors what the policy update is. Most of this comes from KSBA, like Mr. Becker said. A lot of them are just legal changes. When your policy changes, your procedures have to mirror that. We don't need to do readings on it. It's just a notification. We also have a couple updates to our AUP, Mr. Over coming in. We've sent that form on to KSBA. Also, their attorneys have looked at all of it, and that'll be a small change also.
This is FYI.
It's just an FYI.
All right. Anybody have any comments or concerns? All right. Well, let's move on to item 17. We have our first one, staffing report. Dr. McDonald.
So we are asking for 2 additional positions and 1 position that's going to add 20 days. So let me kind of talk through each one. As we were adding, and these are ESSER funded too, and as we were adding those, and each principal was estimating what they would need to help close those gaps, we since then have seen that there's a little bit of an additional need at Tolliver. Tolliver is our largest school, and the FMD room has grown in Tolliver. 3 years ago they had a classroom. And Robin, do you know off the top of your head what your numbers were before and what you're looking at this upcoming year?
Going back even before Tolliver, we had 1 unit in each elementary, middle, and high school level. 6 years ago, we added an additional one at the elementary. And now we have surpassed our capacity there and have last January added another. So that population has exploded. We went from about 6 or 7 students until next year we will have 18 students in that program. So it has tripled in size.
So the interventionists will be looking, or at Tolliver that we're asking for, using ESSER 2 funding, would be for the TLC room, which also serves some of those students as well. And so it's really helping add some relief to the FMD room and the TLC room. So we know that the funding is 2 years. This is something where the population is shifting. If it continues to increase, then in 2 years we will have to look at some other way to support those rooms as well. But that's a special need that we'll have to just keep an eye on. So that's the first one. The other 2 are classified positions. And so when we ask for the additional positions for our schools, the principals are the ones that really looked and said, this is what I think I need, based on the data and my students and my staff, and to help really close that COVID gap. When we hired our new principal, Chad Luman, we sat down and talked with him about what he had, staffing, what it looked like, and so forth. And he has requested an additional instructional assistant out of those ESSER 2 funds. This individual is going to work in the safe room. I agree with him. I originally had this on the list, and it had been pulled off before the board meeting. And so Mr. Luman really would like to add it back in, and I agree that I think he needs it. The last one is, if you remember, our transportation director and / mechanic, that hybrid position that we have been talking about actually at multiple board meetings. We put it in originally with a certain number of days. We've been really looking into what this individual can provide for our district, and so we originally talked about each month, every one of our vehicles has to have an inspection. All of our trucks, our buses, and so forth. And so it's been a pretty large expense. And so we originally, this person was going to do that, or the individual in this position, and we will still do that. But we have an individual now that can not only do that, but can do yearly inspections, which is a much larger inspection. You have to have a way different certification for it. And that will save us a good bit of money instead of outsourcing that. So we're asking for that position to have those extra 20 days in order to do all those annual inspections and all those annual kind of maintenance repair things that we do in the summertime. So in the long run, those 20 extra days on that position will actually save us a good bit of money instead of outsourcing the mechanic work. So those are the 3 that we have here. Is there questions on what we're requesting?
Anybody else? Okay. So let's go on and make a motion for the approval of these.
I'll make a motion that we approve the interventionist and also the instructional assistant and mechanic position for the district.
Second.
So we have a motion for the following certified and classified positions as presented to our Board of Education. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing there are none, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay. So I guess Ms. Osborne?
You will see 2 attachments. Those are the fidelity bonds that we have to approve each year. It's indicating on the superintendent and the finance officer.
So this is just a matter of our regular business.
Right, yeah, do this every year in June, because KDU requires it by July.
Okay. So we can have a motion on this, please?
Make a motion that we approve of the 21-22 fidelity bond as submitted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for the approval of the fidelity bonds as were required for our finance officer and superintendent. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing there are none, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay.
The next thing we have is called a pledge of collateral. I don't know if you remember or not, but usually every year in June, we did what was called a bond depository. When you choose policy, just in case something like that was to happen. KDE requires this as well. They changed the name of it this year from bonded depository to pledge of collateral. And of course, our bank, Farmers Bank, has been kind enough. They've done all the paperwork and, did their part of the agreement. So we just need you guys to vote on it and sign it so we can get that turned into KDE as well.
I make a motion to approve the 2021-22 pledge of collateral agreement.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the 21-22 pledge of collateral as submitted. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing there are none, the motion carries. Thank you. All right. So Ms. Osborne, I believe we're going to talk about the finances.
Okay, a finance report, you have an attachment added. Okay, we started out the month with $9,939,112.30. Total receipts for the month, $1,319,524.29. Total disbursements is $1,609,151.57. And we closed the month of May at $9,649,485.02. Down in part 2, you can see where we broke it down by fund. And at the bottom is the bank reconciliation showing outstanding payroll checks and accounts payable checks. You'll see that listed and the three totals match, so we are in balance for May. On page 2, you will see the expenditures. The claims are, of course, our bills, our accounts payable, payroll is right below that. Page 3 and 4, you should see all the receipts for the month. And then page 5, of course, our bank statement. Any questions?
I have reviewed everything, Mr. Becker, everything is in order.
That just makes my heart go pound, pound, pound. I appreciate that, Mr. Mom.
Don't print it, Rob.
No, it's good that you're in there with Teresa, checking on things, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Teresa, one thing I keep noticing in all these reports is that we're still collecting taxes.
Yes, we are at 99 point something percent. We're just about right on.
That is fantastic.
Print that.
Yeah. No, that really is. That's,
Yes.
I mean, I'm just, through all these hard times and people out of work and being able still to maintain our tax collections at almost 100%. So that's fantastic. So we need a motion, please.
Make a motion of approval of the 21 financial report is submitted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of May 2021 financial report. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Seeing there are none, the motion carries. Thank you. All right, Ms. Osborne.
Okay, you've also got an attachment for all the bills for the month. I try to point out a couple. This was kind of a slow month, but on page 1, you will see the Advocate Messenger. We paid $2,084.80. What that was for was this time of year, we have our tax sale, and then also our tax bills go out. So we had the sale, and then of course
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, can we have a motion, please?
Make a motion of the approval of payments of invoice totaling $396,007 as presented.
Second.
Can we have a motion and a second for the approval of payment of the invoices totaling $396,000 and $7 as presented? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next we have consent agenda items. Have you all had a chance to take a look at all these? We don't need to vote on them individually. So if somebody wants to make a motion,
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented for those 5 items that are listed.
Second.
okay, so we have a motion for the approval of all consent items as presented. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing there are none, the motion carries. Okay. Item 19. We have a board member that has an opportunity. And he is, and his family, are going to move to the Buckeye State. And that's okay. They have accepted positions at a company up there. And it really is going to be a great thing for them. But it's going to be a great loss to us. Troy McCowan is the epitome of a board member. He is a true example of what a board member should be. And Troy and I have worked together for many years. He has been a sounding board for me. It's rare that we don't go 2 days without talking to each other. I know Tiff goes nuts, but that's okay. And but he's really been good for me. He keeps me in line, and he looks at things from a different side and perspective than sometimes I do. So this will be Troy's last meeting. We will start a search for a new board member. As soon as possible, we have 60 days to fill that position. But I'm not going to worry about that now, because this isn't, I want Troy to take this opportunity and let's see what's on his mind.
And I'd just like to say to our chair, Steve, superintendent, other board members, and everyone in the district, everyone is here. So effective today, June 22nd, after the adjournment, I am stepping down from my position as on the Danville Independent School Board. As Steve has said, my family and I are moving to Ohio to take on a different path in our lives. And we would like to thank the community for their support. I would like to thank Danville School Board members, past and present, Dr. McDonald, and the whole Danville School District for your favor and your support of me. I have enjoyed my time on the board for the past almost 12 years, and I hope that the board will continue, the school system will continue to strive for student success now and in the future. So please don't hesitate. Just because I'm leaving doesn't mean I won't be back in the community, because my family is from here. So, but I am an admiral through and through, and I always will be. So if you need anything, don't hesitate to call. And I appreciate everyone's support. Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like for you to take item 20 and make the motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you.